if Joe Biden asked me to serve as his vice president during such a critical and tough time for our nation, of course I would say yes, to continue to serve the people who need the help the most. We are ready to have a woman. I think we're certainly ready to have an African American woman in such a critical leadership role, and I just hope and pray that
Joe Biden. That is the question of the day among Democrats who are itching to see who their apparent nominee will choose as a running mate. The names thrown around include Florida Congresswoman Val Demings, who made a name for herself as an impeachment manager, along with Georgia's Stacey Abrams and Senators Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, and Kamala Harris. Who Biden picks could be the key to energizing voters in November. And Biden needs a partner who can help him confront a pandemic in the midst of an election that is disproportionately killing Black people. And with Black women being Democrats' most steadfast and loyal voters, and Black voters in the southern states having rescued Biden's primary campaign, there are more than a few political watchers who believe a Black woman should be first in line for the job. Joining me now is Aaron Haynes, editor-at-large of The 19th, and Steve Phillips, host of the podcast Democracy in Color. Aaron, I'm going to start with you. Statistically, in 2018, the midterm elections, Black women's turnout was 6 points above the national turnout. That's significant. The heart of the Democratic Party is people of color. Does that mean that Biden should go in that direction? I mean, when you're talking to people out there in the world, you speak to a lot of voters as you're out reporting. Are people saying that he needs to reward that with a Black woman nominee, or do people say, no, we just want to come out, we don't care? Who do you think?
Well, I think it's both. I think that Black women are definitely looking for a return on their investment in this cycle in particular. Like a lot of Democrats, Black women's priority is ousting President Trump in November. And to that end, they really showed up and showed out in this early primary calendar, resurrecting Vice President Biden's campaign and making him now the presumptive nominee. We saw him say at the debate in South Carolina that he would nominate a Black woman to the Supreme Court. That was something that got a lot of Black women's attention. But, after there was no longer a path for a woman to be president this cycle, the conversation started turning to, a woman as vice president. And remember, there's never been a woman as vice president in the history of this country either. So that would also be a history-making move. And so, when we're talking about that, talking about somebody who's representative of the direction of the party, the demographics of the party, I don't know how you're talking about anybody but a Black woman at the top of that conversation.
Well, Steve, there have been, within this conversation, the sort of sub-conversation is, well, if, then who, right? So there's a boomlet for Kamala Harris. Jason Johnson wrote a piece for the Grio in which he made the argument that if you're casting this thing, you want to cast Kamala Harris. She's got the experience as a United States Senator. She's ready to be president herself, etc. You've got a boomlet for Stacey Abrams, who younger Black voters would really cater to. She's more popular with younger progressives. Marcus Farrell, who was the African American Outreach Director in 2016 for Bernie Sanders, wrote that piece for the Grio as well. What are you hearing in terms of what people want in terms of a Black woman, if that is what Joe Biden selects? Or if people say they don't care, pick Amy Klobuchar if you want, anyone you want.
Yeah, no, I'm not hearing a lot of that. One of the things, what I did, and so I worked on a piece looking for the New York Times, looking at the electoral track records of all of the potential candidates. But people are going to be talking about looking at polling, and polling is a lot of predictive basis. But if you look at what happened in the actual races for the various people who are being mentioned, how did they perform? What the data showed from that, from the exit polls, comparing his races, is that Abrams actually has a demonstrably stronger track record with the key constituencies that Biden needs than anybody. So that's young people, it's African-American enthusiasm, not just support. And that's one of the things I'm worried Biden's not going to grasp. He's going to make the same mistake Hillary did. So, we did well in African-Americans in the primary, so we're fine. You need enthusiasm. And then also with Latinos. And so in her exit polls in her actual race compared to all the other potential candidates, Abrams is significantly more, better in terms of that actual track record, percentage of turnout, the numbers are actually turned out. So if that's what you're looking at is to actually win, and you want to see who has that best track record, it is clear that Abrams stands out in that regard.
You know, Aaron, and I don't know if your reporting supports this, but the one person that seems to complicate that narrative is Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren had a significant support base among black women. You know, there were some black celebrity women who were with her. She actually does galvanize a lot of black women, at least she did in the primary, even though, you know, obviously she didn't get the nomination. Does she complicate that question about whether or not black women would care whether or not the VP nominee was black? Does she complicate it at all?
Well, I think that Elizabeth Warren's agenda is certainly something that a lot of progressive black women that I've spoken to still want to see as somehow part of a Biden platform and administration. You know, Vice President Biden is somebody who Senator Warren endorsed just this week. And what she said was that she felt that he was somebody who would listen, and so maybe somebody who was open to some of the ideas that a lot of these black women, progressive black women activists, were championing. And so, you know, in that regard, I think that she's going to be a part of this conversation, whether she is on this ticket or not. You know, but I think that the conversation around a black woman in particular, not just a woman of color, but a black woman, is something that I'm hearing from so many black women voters as the thing that could really excite and energize that key constituency in particular headed into November, because, you know, with this pandemic kind of looming over everything, you need a ticket that is going to excite people, you know, headed into November.
Whoever's dog, they're totally welcome to be on the show, by the way. If it's your dog, because my dog is upstairs, and he probably will. He's happy to join in. I think we're out of time, but we're going to definitely continue this conversation. Aaron Haynes, Steve Phillips, we'll have you guys both back. Thank you all, and please stay safe. And coming up, a closer look at why Mitch McConnell, they always do this on the